Chapter 28 Ghost Stories. One warm Saturday in June, Brock watched a girl walk her bicycle up the long gravel drive leading to Broadview Manor. The bike was a familiar lime green Schwinn. The girl was familiar too, though Brock had never seen this particular outfit before. A short turquoise sundress, rainbow-striped thigh-high stockings, patent leather Mary Janes, and a wide-brimmed straw hat with trailing ribbons. When she reached the porch, Brock strode back into the kitchen, where he waited for her knock. He didn't want to appear at the door too soon, and give the impression that he'd been waiting for her with bated breath, even though he had. She'd been gone for such a long time, and he had exciting news to share. Besides that, he just missed her. "Wisteria! Mayor DeKalb!" Wisteria cried, and flung herself at Brock, grabbing him around the neck and lifting her feet from the floor, hanging on him. He almost lost his balance, but swung her around and managed to stay upright, laughing. "Hey, you," he said. "It's just Brock." "But you're the big man now." "Well, I'm trying not to get a big head, though." Wisteria released her grasp and flounced into the living room, where the cats were waging an epic battle on the rug. She plucked Spooky from the fray and cuddled him. "You poor baby. Are Albert's cats being mean to you?" she cooed. "My cats," said Brock. Albert passed away about 2 months ago. He just didn't come out of his room one morning, and I think we all knew. His health had been declining for a while, and when I went to check, well, Brock shrugged. "I'm sorry." "It's okay. I think that's why he came back. There were better places, houses he could have gotten around in easier, nursing homes. But I think he wanted to die here. This place had a lot of memories for him." "I didn't know him very well, but he seemed like a nice old man." Wisteria raised an eyebrow. "Seen his ghost?" she asked, half seriously. "Nah, nothing like that." Brock scratched the back of his head thoughtfully. "Except whenever I see the cats looking around the room, or when they act like they're watching something I can't see, I like to think maybe they're watching old Albert, coming to give him some treats or scratches." "A lot of spirits in this place now." "Yeah, I guess." Wisteria set Spooky back on the floor and picked up the calico. "Is this boy cat or girl cat?" "That's girl cat. Calico cats are always girls. Almost always." Girl cat settled into Wisteria's lap and began to wash her own face. "So I guess you're a cat dad 3 times over now, right?" Brock got down onto the floor, sitting cross-legged on the rug. Albert's daughter came by to make arrangements and take care of his things. She didn't want the cats, said she was going to take them to the shelter. I told her they could live here, so here they are. I don't feel like their owner or anything. They're just like some extra, quiet roommates. Boy cat headbutted Brock's arm, begging to be scratched. Brock obliged him. "Oh, don't pretend. You love the kitties," Wisteria said. She gave Girl Cat a squeeze. Girl Cat seemed slightly irritated about it. "So, what's new in Wisteria land?" "Well," she said, "I have some big news." She held out her left hand. Upon her ring finger was a small sparkling diamond. Brock was surprised to feel an odd twinge in the pit of his stomach, way down deep, but he ignored it and focused on showing a big smile to cover up the ache. "Mike?" he said. "Yeah, he proposed on Christmas." "Congratulations." I don't really know what to say all of a sudden." "Say you're happy for me?" I am. I am really happy for you." Wisteria blushed, something Brock had rarely seen her do. "Thanks. We're getting married in the fall. You think you can take a little time away from your important mayor duties to see me get hitched?" "I wouldn't miss it." Wisteria looked up from the cat and stared right into Brock's face, her large eyes piercing. What's the matter? Brock shrugged. I don't know. You'll get married, and then you and Mike will move away, have some kids. I'll never see you again. We'll be around for a while, Brock. I still need to finish up my degree. Speaking of which, I finally settled on a major. What's that? City planning and urban development. Well, I could always use your services at the city after you graduate. Just a thought? You never know. There was a commotion outside on the porch. Then the front door burst open, and Beckett toddled in on stubby legs. Kitty! Kitty! He shrieked. The terrified cats scattered in all directions, so Beckett settled for Wisteria. He tried to climb onto the couch beside her, but couldn't quite make it. He's definitely not a shy kid, is he? Wisteria asked, pulling the little one onto her lap. Christie stepped into the room, carrying a brown bag of groceries. No, he's not. Watch your hair, he likes to pull. Kurt followed, a bag under each arm, and a gallon container of milk swinging from his hand. He staggered inside and bumped the door shut with his ass. You guys need any help? Wisteria asked. Kurt shook his head vigorously. You're doing it. Keep an eye on the little dude while we put this stuff away. He followed Christie into the kitchen. Are they, together? Wisteria asked in a hushed tone, so Christie and Kurt wouldn't overhear. Basically, yeah, Brock said. After Albert died, I gave him the whole first floor. One won't go anywhere without the other. Kurt helps out a lot, raising Beckett, taking care of him. He loves that little guy. I think I can tell who dresses you, Wisteria said to Beckett as she straightened out his little tie-dyed shirt. Wisteria whispered, Do they need anything? I'm looking for a new project. Diapers, money, food, babysitter? Brock thought for a moment. I think they're good. Christie thought Reverend Cleghorn was going to cut off her monthly hush money, which, he did. But then he ended up offering to pay child support anyway, just out of the blue. Kurt's working at the little grocery store on 14th Street. The city takes good care of me, salary-wise. Mortgage is no problem now. So I haven't been charging them rent. And anyway, I kind of think of them as my project now. I got it covered. He smiled. Oh, I'm so proud of you, Wisteria said. You learned from the best. That I did. Brock lay back on the rug and stared up at the ceiling. The little schoolhouse is gone. I know, said Wisteria. All the Carterville buildings are gone. I saw them pouring the foundation of the new rec center a couple of days ago. Yeah. How are you feeling about it? I don't know. Better, I guess. Letting it go was the top choice of two bad options. I'm still a little down. I know I'll be mad if I ever see that rec center and remember. Agreed. But maybe in 100 years, the rec center will look charming and quaint. Brock sat up suddenly. I just thought of something. You know what you can do? For a project? Help me think up a good story to memorialize Zane. Like a ghost story? Yeah. Like the one you told us in the cemetery the first day we met. Okay. She bounced her knee excitedly, jostling Beckett, who giggled. You gotta help, though. How do you want to start? What do you want people to remember about Zane? Well, Zane was the guy who got me started on all this historic preservation stuff. I knew he would have been upset to see all of these buildings getting knocked down. I guess it was his ghost, if you want to call it that. He was always there, haunting me, pushing me. So, Wisteria said, tapping her chin, the story revolves around this guy, Zane, who is killed doing what he loves, protecting old buildings. He's protesting, maybe standing in front of a bulldozer or something, and he's killed somehow. Okay, said Brock. And now his ghost haunts people who try to demolish buildings? Yes, and there has to be some element of unrequited love. or a forbidden relationship. Beautiful, but sad. Every good story has to get some of that in. Not everyone, said Brock. Come on, trust me on this. The story needs to resonate with people, so they'll tell it and retell it. Pass it on, from person to person, forever. Okay, whatever. We need a good villain, too, said Wisteria. How about your dad? Wisteria blew him a raspberry. Not him specifically, but it could be a developer, an evil developer. She opened her ever-present notebook and began to scribble some ideas. What else? She said. Let's expand it to include kids who damage old buildings, too. Zane was all about not breaking or taking anything while exploring. Wisteria looked up from her writing. What was he always telling people? He thought it was totally fine to go into these old places, even if there was a no trespassing sign, but he didn't want anyone to do graffiti on the walls. No tagging, no signatures, nothing like that. He didn't want people to steal souvenirs either. Leave the stuff for the next people to find. That's what he always said. No smashing windows either. Don't break anything. Yeah, that was the other one, Brock said. Wisteria finished her note-taking and snapped the pad shut. I'll write it up, make some copies, then we just have to tell people. Who should we tell? Beckett had fallen asleep in Wisteria's lap with a thumb in his mouth. Tell everybody you can think of, but make it sound natural. If you're having a conversation with somebody about historic preservation, just work it in there somehow. They'll pick it up and tell their own friends. Won't it be like that old telephone game, though? People will tell the story wrong. It'll be like a 7th-generation tape copy. It'll get mixed up after a while. Wisteria nodded. Yeah, that's okay. The important details will stay the same. I hope. We need some ghost sighting stories, too. Zane sightings. Make it sound legit. Got it. Like he was seen in an old factory that they were tearing down. The wrecking ball operator saw his ghost, and got spooked, left the construction site, and never came back. And then we need to figure out something for Zane's ghost to do to people who tear down old buildings, to make it like a warning. Brock was in a groove. He chops them up with an axe? Yeah, well, maybe something a little more subtle than that, man. It's going to be fantastic. Don't worry. Kurt ambled into the living room to retrieve Beckett. Hey, dude. I want to tell people the ghost story. I know a bunch of dudes at the music store who would be totally into this. Wisteria smiled up at Kurt. You will be in the first generation to hear it. Then you can pass it on to whoever you want. Kurt draped Beckett, still sleeping, over his shoulder. I'll tell the little guy, too. Then he'll grow up hearing this weird legend, pass it on to his friends. I think this may actually work, said Brock. Well, yeah, of course it will. Christie walked in, drying her hands on a dish towel. I was going to put Beckett down for a nap. You wanna? She asked Kurt. He gave Christie a quick smooch on the lips and headed toward the bedroom to lay the boy in his crib. Don't make this story too scary, Christie said. I don't want the kid to have nightmares. He'll be wanting to sleep in our room every night, and we need some alone time. She smirked. Check, said Wisteria. Not too scary. Christie followed Kurt into the back hallway, leaving Brock and Wisteria alone again. We lost the schoolhouse, Brock said. But we also got started on the redevelopment projects, so there's that. Can't wait to see it, said Wisteria. What are you starting with? Well, the old rail line is becoming a walking trail through the city. We got some grant projects going on, so business owners can apply to have their buildings' facades updated and repaired. That's all in accordance with preservation guidelines. We're going to clear out some old blocks that are too far gone to save and rezone for multi-purpose development. Stores on the ground floor, housing above. Set up a couple of historic neighborhood districts in the first year. Preserve that architectural character that we can't get back if it gets demolished. Sounds a bit like North Broadacre, she teased. It's true, Brock said. I can't deny it. Except, this is going to be for everyone, not just the people who can afford it. Brock and Wisteria whiled away the hours, talking, until the sun threatened to disappear completely below the horizon. Her phone rang several times. It was Mike. Finally, she couldn't put him off any longer. Well, I need to get out of here, or Mike will send out a search party, she said. Brock bobbed his head slowly. Neither one moved toward the door. You come back and see me, he said. I'll be back soon. I'll bring back the story. I mean after that, too. Always. Don't forget about me after you go off and get married. Make some time for your old pal once you and Mike have a family. You're the last of my all-time friends. I will. Don't you worry about that. Wisteria stood. She pulled Brock to his feet and pressed in close to him. As a reminder of my promise, and a token of my love, she placed her hands gently aside Brock's face and pulled him toward her. I bestow upon you. Brock closed his eyes instinctively as their lips neared. My cold hands, Wisteria blurted with a giggle and released him. Oh, you saucy minx, Brock said, laughing in spite of himself. Sorry, said Wisteria. Couldn't resist. She threw her arms around Brock and gave him a real peck on the cheek. Till we meet again, she said. Until then, said Brock, and Wisteria skipped out the door. Later that evening, lost in his own thoughts, Brock went for a drive and ended up at the city hall in Broadacre. He paced the dark hallways, said hello to the janitorial night staff who were scrubbing the restrooms, and popped into his office. His chair was fine. It was comfortable and all, but after a few minutes, he decided that he needed a different perspective. Up to the 4th floor, Brock strolled where he found a door marked Authorized Personnel Only that he hadn't previously noticed. I guess you can't get much more authorized than the mayor, he thought, and turned the handle. A long stairway led upward. Brock ran his hands gently along the walls as he ascended. The bricks were rough. Their mortar oozed out, unrefined. The musty scent of old closed-off spaces pervaded. The attic was enormous, with a high, peaked ceiling of thick rafters that disappeared upward into the gloom. Brock was drawn inexorably southward, through the beams of blue moonlight streaming through porthole windows to one plain, wooden door at the south end. Beyond was a simple storeroom containing the busts and oil paintings documenting every mayor of the city of Broadacre. Brock spent some time straightening up. An oil painting was lying face down on the floor. He set it upright against the wall. He knocked down thick nests of cobwebs with a broom, and adjusted the positions of the marble busts, dragging them into a neat row opposite an intricately framed window. Now they can see outside, he thought. Much better. At last, Brock went to the window himself. He touched the power switch that always hung from the cord around his neck, feeling its weight, unconsciously flipping the mechanism from off to on, then back again. From up here, he could see for miles, far out across the glittering city, with its 1,000 starbursts of light, all the way to dark silhouettes of trees at the edge of the Salamone River, and to the cornfields beyond. In only a few short years, the city would be different. Better? He hoped so. But Brock knew that things would never be the same again.